All right. Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you guys all know me. I'm Andrea, and I've been doing some work for Nurses in Resilience, like Mary Jean. And one thing that has come up recently is self-compassion. So I put together just some slides quickly this week. I'm going to share my screen. Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Great. And, I want to say that within the last 45 days, whereas Mary Jean was getting hacked, I listened to a podcast that kind of made me realize that I had no idea what self-compassion was. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that I was completely blind to that. Just like our brain blocks out our nose every time we look down, I completely was missing self-compassion for my whole life, basically. So I started doing some research and found a book that has really been helpful and put together these slides. Self-compassion, what is it really, and what do we do with it? Well, why do we care about self-compassion? What I found is that there's over 1,000 research studies that have demonstrated mental and physical health benefits of self-compassion. And it's something that we don't often think of, even though some of us might be nurses, we're parents, we're wives and mothers, we're friends. We give compassion to everyone in our lives, but we neglect that self-compassion piece for ourselves. Not only do we need it to connect with humanity now and become a healthy version of ourselves in light of our new world, and we all know that 2020 has been a space that is new, that things have happened that we never thought would ever come about. And so having this space for ourselves is super important. The 3 pieces of self-compassion. Well, number 1, self-kindness. We are as caring to ourselves as we are towards others. I know that piece has always been missing for me. I've always thought that I had to be the stern parent to myself. That's how I created everything in my life, by just towing the line, never stopping to think about what's happening with me and how I'm speaking to myself. Second piece is mindfulness. We are aware of the moment-to-moment experience. I know that I take that very seriously. Even right now, I have 11 days of vacation and I'm on my 3rd day. So every 4 hours, I'm like, I have to remember what I did, that I'm off. I'm trying to be so present. And I know I've always tried to be very mindful of my time and presence, but never have I thought of being kind to myself. And the 3rd piece, which has really been resonating with me, as Mary Jean and I were talking earlier, common humanity. Self-compassion reminds us that we have human connectedness, that we recognize that all of us humans are flawed and embarking on the same struggles. And sorry, but I don't even know if I can say that without crying, because this has been like a really powerful year. And I've never thought that, yeah, we are all really connected. And it doesn't matter what side of the country you're on, east, west, what color your skin is, what ethnicity, who you have as a religious leader, we're all going through the same things, just at different levels. So, of course, if none of us are tapping into our compassion with ourselves, how are we considering that we're all going through the same thing? And of course, we're falling down there. Just some simple questions that, if you have the PowerPoint at home, these are great to answer if you're spending some time reflecting, which I do, some journaling every day. How do you treat a friend? I can guarantee you right now, you're all thinking of how you would treat someone who came to you and said, I just need a few minutes of your time to just talk this through. How do you treat yourself in times of struggle? Do you respond to yourself like you would a friend? And the next question, how do you respond to yourself? Well, I know that a lot of times I'll just shut the door. I'll just walk away. I'll just shut it down. And that's not how I would show up for a friend, a child, a husband. What tone do I use with myself? Not usually a good one. I mean, it's very curt at times. And just a final question, which kind of pulls the top 2 together. Is there a difference between how you treat a friend and yourself? And until you put them side by side, it's really hard to notice that you're treating yourself differently, because we don't spend a lot of time considering that space. What self-compassion is not, and this also really hit home for me. growing up as a product of the 70s, my parents were very loving and very supportive and taught me that self-esteem is how I get where I need to go. But self-compassion is not self-esteem. It's also not a pity party. It's described as a desire to see ourselves better, or sorry, self-esteem is desire to see ourselves better than average. And I guess I think it's a fair weather friend a little bit. When you are not feeling better than, when you're not feeling even yourself, self-esteem leaves you, and that's where self-compassion comes in, for sure. Here's a couple quotes from the workbook I've been using. I need to think more about other people, not myself. Being self-compassionate is way too selfish, sorry about the typo, and self-focused. But what research shows is that actually giving compassion to ourselves allows us to give more to others in relationships. And another quote was, self-compassion will make me lazy. I will probably just skip work and stay in bed. You know, studies show that this is having self-compassion inclines us towards long-term health and well-being and steers us away from short-term pleasure, like skipping work and staying in bed as a coping mechanism. So that is a couple things debunked there. One thing I also wanted to read is that someone did quote that they would never get where they wanted in life if they let their self-harsh criticism stop for even one moment. And what studies have shown is that most people believe self-criticism is an effective motivator, but it's not. Self-criticism tends to undermine self-confidence and leads to fear of failure, which is a whole nother session, right? Failure. If we are self-compassionate, we still can be motivated to reach our goals, but not because we're inadequate, but because we care about ourselves and reaching our full potential. So this is a photo of the workbook. I just ordered it off Amazon. Some helpful work is writing down misgivings that you personally have about self-compassion. And of course, our attitudes are often shaped by people in our lives and what they think about self-compassion and what society at large gives us about self-compassion. So that's some work to do to really separate what you're thinking and feeling about it compared to what really is the norm, and how do we decide how to help people become more self-compassionate. Let's see if I can get to my next slide. Nope, can't do it. Ah, there we are. So this is the podcast that I first heard about this on with Kristen Neff, and she also has a TED Talk, which is really nice as well. And I thank you for looking at those slides, and I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say about this, because everybody does feel differently about this. So thanks, guys.
That was a really nice, like, brief refresher, because I think if we, as a teacher, I think of what works well with students.